Okay, thanks everyone for showing up, taking some time out of your what I'm sure is a busy week to engage with RChain Co-op. We have a lot to talk about today, quite a bit actually. But as always, we love to begin with a tech update. Rao, are you ready to give the tech update?
Yes, I am. So we're making good progress on the finalization work to complete the block merge. So Thomas Edison has added a second PR on refactoring the block metadata, part 2 of it. And with that done now, he is finishing up the block processing and continuing his work on finalization. Like I said earlier, much of the code for finalization was already there. He needs to integrate all these things and test them. All of that is what he's doing now. And one thing, of course, that's slowing him down is that as he goes through this, he's having to refactor both code and tests in many places. So that's kind of what is slowing him down a little bit. But we're certainly getting ever so much closer to completing this. And when he is done with all of those, NutZipper has a little bit of work on merging of the state. And then all of that should be ready to deploy to the test net. Stas is helping Thomas Lau with writing tests for this, and basically everybody that is that can contribute in this effort is able to, or is prioritizing this as their main thing to support. The list of PRs and all that is over there if you want to look at those. The other area where we're doing a fair amount of work is in this bonding of external validators. Will has put the initial draft PR out there for that. There is still quite a bit of work there that needs to be done. But once that is done, this work will be used as a test case to test the registry update process that Will had recently completed. As part of this bonding of external validators, there were a couple of items that relate to it. One was an earlier or previous request from Dan Conley for a separate rev address for rewards. That we think is a relatively simple change, and we're looking at implementing that. So that, for example, if people want to stake their rev, but want to take their rewards out, that is possible by having it this way. There were other changes requested to sort of, say, for example, support people to, essentially, I guess these are all features in the realm of staking pools. That we are probably not going to do too much in that area right now for a variety of reasons. For one, the requirements for staking pools are going to vary from one validator's business model to another. And we don't want to pack all that complexity or variety into RNode. Instead, we want to say, okay, well, what are all the different business models that people are using? And is there any core functionality or support we need to provide in the POS contract or somewhere to enable that? That's all we want to do initially. So we need to study the requirements really as for staking pools rather than taking ad hoc requests for do this or do that. We're not going to do that. We're just going to first study what the requirements are. We'll see what is the core common stuff that it would be nice to support in the POS contract, and then take it from there. Because otherwise, if we throw all this variety into RNode, then the code becomes very brittle, and then we'll have to have a lot of rework if we do it too early. So we're not at this point taking on much of the staking pools work. I know Jim Whitescarver and I believe Dan Conley also were doing some work in the staking pools area. I have not recently reviewed their contracts or what it is, but we will certainly hold some degree of requirements gathering with folks that are working in this space, as well as the people that have signed up to be validators for now, and then take those requirements and then do the minimal support that we can, and then incrementally add stuff as things are clear that, yeah, this is absolutely needed by multiple parties. So that's the position on that, and I hope that makes sense to people. Max is helping with tests in the pieces that kind of relate to the finalization and the history. Radix history is also coming up to speed on Rholang so that he can help in more areas. And Dennis has implemented or put up for review now a PR implementing the begin type in Rholang. Take a look at it if this is something that's of interest to you. And I said draft here. This is not draft anymore. That was a typo on my part. But it's up for review. And then once the comments are in and he takes care of them, it'll be merged. So there should be a begin functionality when the next version of the node comes out. I refer to the fact that there was a memory leak that the team was investigating last week, but upon further investigation, it seems to be just a configuration issue. So there is nothing there code-wise that needs to be done. Basically, they were trying to run the code in multi-parent mode when the finalization was not there for the multi-parent mode. So that's something that is resolved. And I mean, if it shows up later, once we have all the pieces in, we'll clearly take a look at that at that time. Dennis has, Gurinder has all the pieces necessary for moving the mainnet to AWS. I believe actually he has 29 or 30 nodes running over there now. He has also done some preliminary numbers on how it's working on AWS versus the current IBM network. We will not publish them at this time yet. The numbers, in case you're wondering, appear to be better than what we have on IBM. However, we want to let the network stabilize and reach steady state with sufficient amount of data. And then we want to look at the numbers to see if they're about the same or is there anything substantially different or better. So at this time, we're not releasing the numbers, even though they look better. So that's kind of where we are on that. One other thing we will be doing over the next several weeks, and this may start before the release, before the next release, but it'll probably continue after the next release, is improving the error reporting and error handling, both from an end user perspective as well as from the kind of information that's available to the core dev team. So we're going to create a error classification system and codes and provide more information about the nature of the error so that the users can see what they've done wrong and fix it as much as possible over there. Because as we go to external validators and the use of the network increases, we want to be in a situation where that doesn't cause a lot of burden and confusion, either for validators or us or the users. So this error framework is an important component of that, to be able to provide more information so that people can see if it's a local configuration issue, user error, or RNode error, and possibly what actions need to be taken following that. So that's another piece of work that we will take on probably after we complete this bonding related work. That's going to make things a lot easier for us to support in a decentralized environment. I think those are the main areas that I wanted to cover today. Are there any questions, comments from anybody at all on this?
I wholeheartedly support what you're saying. We want to modularize the different business policies. We don't want everything baked into a POS. Staking pools can easily be layered on top of our existing POS. So that's just another smart contract that you compose with our existing POS to provide staking capabilities. So there's no need to bake it inside, and this gives for a much greater range of functionality and capability, and far better flexibility for the community, and then also makes it so much easier to maintain. So yeah, this is the right call, Rao. I appreciate this kind of architectural best practices. We have today, if that's everything for Rao.
I do have a question for Rao, real quick.
Okay.
I was wondering what the solution was, how it was decided to do time. I know there was a lot of discussion about time that I haven't kept up with in the last 2 weeks, and I was wondering if I could just have a summary of what that decision was.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to burn some sage and some incense to Kronos every second Tuesday, and that's going to be our time solution.
It works for me.
So what we decided to do there is that we will leave a field that is a validated, reported, unverified time. We will not call it timestamp. We will not use it as a timestamp anywhere, but it could be just a number in there that kind of conforms to the time format, but we will name it what it is, which is it's a validated, reported, unverified time. And people can do whatever they want to do with it. Jim Whitescarver was, for example, proposing his own scheme of how he's going to use it to derive or divine, whichever way you want to describe that, some sense of time based on that with his algorithm of leaving out the outliers and applying some statistical algorithms to the rest of it to say this is what it is. So we will leave that piece of information, but it is not verified. It doesn't do anything anywhere else in the code or anything like that. So it's just one unverified piece of data that's just there in the block. We just need to make sure that it cannot be used to crash the node or something like that. So we will do something around that, but that's about what you have.
I mean, and the thing is, if someone is doing that much computation with the number that's being stored on the block, they could easily take the distance of the block from last finalized state and the statistics about average production time of the block and come up with a better elapsed time using that calculation. So I still think the better time service is just to use the distance from last finalized state. Because it's using objective stuff as opposed to some number that a validator is reporting at random. So
that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we have a little demo for you today. Theo, I know it's late for you. Are you ready to give the demo?
Yes, we do.
All right.
A little demo is probably understatement. It's gonna take a while to upload. Let's leave it at that. Right. Let me share my screen. Okay. So you're looking at RDrive executable that we can actually run, and I'm currently running under WSL2, so it might be a bit laggy. So as I will do some stuff now, RDrive allows us to mount RChain basically to our file system, and let's do that, just that. All we have to do is to run this command. The input is too laggy. There we go.
So just to make sure that we're, I understand what we're seeing. The window in the back of the screen, that's the log from the node. Yes. Yeah,
exactly. It's my devnet.
Yeah, exactly. So when you issue a command into the front window, we're seeing the node respond to that command in the back window.
Exactly. So I want you to see deploys coming in as I move files and stuff.
Perfect.
Okay, our drive is ready, so we should be able to see it in this folder. So let's open it up in a file manager. There it is. And RDrive initially created a folder for us called Theo because I added it to the command line. But in this folder, we also have a hidden file, which is .token.conf. And it essentially has a price set to 5ref by default. We can actually change that. And every time a file is dropped into this folder, it will essentially put it automatically for sale. So what we can do is mint and mass mint NFTs by just drag and dropping files. Let me demonstrate that. Let's take the art from, can someone remind me the artist behind those? So we give proper credit.
I forget the name of the artist, but this is an associate of Rue in RPC, where we got these images.
Yeah.
So let's turn them into NFTs. We highlight them all, drag and drop. Bang. And we go to RDrive and we see a progress bar for each of the files, and we watch them in real time. Please note that caching currently is broken. I broke it recently, so I will have to restart the RDrive every time I do stuff, just in case. So let's wait for some deploys to come in. You can try to bypass the cache and fetch data from the chain, and data doesn't exist yet, so that's why you see those errors. So just ignore them.
Yeah. So they're all uploading concurrently. That's amazing.
Yeah, RDrive tries to smartly compact as much as possible into as little deploys as possible. So essentially all the files will fit into one deploy, you'll see, because they are small enough to fit into one deploy. But RDrive is also LLVM ready. So we can essentially, we can basically tell it to use multiple validators. And what it will do is essentially deploy chunks to all the validators simultaneously. So as you can see here in the background, we have a deploy, and it has created 6 NFTs, and each of them also has a price and data. So they all fit into one deploy. If we see a progress bar, it updated. So they're all done. So what I just did, I just minted 6 NFTs with a simple drag and drop and put them for sale. Anyone can simply buy them.
And that data is going right on chain, right? It's not going into some file system somewhere else. It's going directly on chain.
Yes, all data is on RChain.
Amazing.
Okay, let's clear the cache. So I'm gonna restart this just in case. Oh.
So just to elaborate a little bit, there's actually logic in here to not only deploy multiple files at the same time with concurrency, but there's also some throttling logic in here to make sure that the network is not overwhelmed in any one given node.
Fantastic. That's great. So Theo, are you ready for the next phase, or do you still need to do some stuff?
Yeah, I just forgot to copy master register URI. I hope it's the correct one.
Okay.
Let's see, do we have the files here? Yeah, so you should see them loading from the chain and generating thumbnails. And those my NFT files are essentially config files that show how much, like some properties of the NFT, so you can see how much they cost, like 5 ref in this case. Okay, we can do files. What else can we do? We can do music. Let me just hide hidden files. And let's upload some music. I have a few. I have downloaded like a collection of NCS release, and which is free music, and we can drag and drop them. Like I'm gonna keep it small for now. Just 4 files for now. And let's see the progress. So before we uploaded, how much was it? 5 megabytes. This time we're uploading 15. It's not that much, but I'm trying to keep this demo short.
No, I get it, right? And anyone who uploads either to SoundCloud or Bandcamp knows that it's non-trivial to upload a bunch of files to Bandcamp. They know that it's going to take some time, and we don't have to spin our wheels too much waiting for a bunch of files to upload just to get the. We're just trying to get the point across that this works at the same kind of industry standards that you might expect from Bandcamp or SoundCloud or Dropbox or any of these other file sharing services.
Yeah, I mean, even an upload to Google Drive takes time for some of this stuff.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And it will only get faster with LLVM, because, like I said, we can upload chunks to multiple validators at once, and then network reconstructs the data into correct files.
Historically, one of the first things I did with the very first sort of form of RDrive, way back, right at the very beginning when it was RFM, and I think that you guys, I think you, Theo, added a download, so I could download whatever I uploaded. And I remember going to find something of significance to upload to RChain because I wanted to be able to really mark the occasion of uploading this audio file, even though our song pre-existed. This was through RDrive. And the track that I chose to upload was Thomas Edison saying, "Mary had a little lamb." I thought that was the most appropriate thing to do. So it's nice, and that took quite a long time to upload compared to where we are now, and the capabilities that we have with RDrive today. I thought I'd just add that little historical note to it.
And it's a great note. It's very meta for the millennials.
Yeah, somewhere on a test net, Thomas Edison lives.
I think it's important to understand here that this technology that we're looking at here, uploading music and whatnot, and what you're about to see that comes after this. This technology, we've only been working on this for 8 months or so, and with basically 1.5 people. So this has come a long way.
And important to note, given various discussions on Discord, that contrary to popular belief, the staff that have worked on this have not been paid a bean since 1st of November.
So one of the things that for those musicians out there and people who make beats and who DJ, if you drag and drop some music files like these into GarageBand, the GarageBand will immediately tell you what it thinks the time signature is, what it thinks the tempo is, and what it thinks the key is for the song, assuming that it stays in one key. And so we can easily use those algorithms from GarageBand. There are open source versions of those algorithms, and use Rholang to search for music assets on that basis. So think about how difficult that would be if you were doing this in an architecture like we see with the modern NFT marketplaces. because the assets are stored in IPFS, and getting to them, you have to go through Ethereum. So, you know, you're now looking at 2 layers of unsearchability before you could get to the assets. Where here, you can go straight to the assets because they're on chain, and you can use Rholang as a query language to go search for these music files on that basis. Right, so you could now search for songs in the key of C, or songs that are at 180 beats per minute, or songs that are in 4/4, or songs that are in 12/8.
Songs in the key of life.
Exactly. You can search. You can use Rholang, which is not only a concurrent smart contracting language, but also a query language to go and query your data assets for those kinds of properties. So I'm looking at your deploys, Theo. About where do you think we are?
Yeah, we should be done any second now.
Okay.
There we go. Now, all done. Now, what do we do? Let me just close this, restart the application to clear the cache, because I want to prove that the data is actually on the chain.
Yep. And
restart RDrive. Now, instead of opening file manager, which I am going to run this open source program and go to this address. I only provided it with a folder called with a RDrive folder. I didn't specify which folder it should look at. So I'm going to create an account with the same name as my folder, create a password. And now I have an account. Now I don't have any songs because it hasn't scanned any. Yeah, so I'm going to press this button. And once I do that, it's going to scan the files that I just uploaded that are in my folder.
Which is actually
in
on
my
chain.
RDrive. Yeah, which is actually on chain, exactly.
Fantastic.
So I'm just telling this application, hey, give me all the music files that are in my RDrive. So I think it's scanned now. As you can see, all the 4 files are here. I just uploaded.
This is
now
amazing.
I can actually play them. Can you hear?
Yes. That's amazing, Theo. By having RDrive make the chain look like a file system, you're able to glue it into all these off-the-shelf tools, like the file manager or this music browser. This is amazing, right?
Yeah. Now we have something, an alternative to our song that runs on RDrive. And we didn't have to engineer a bunch of stuff. We just made RDrive, and that's all we need.
Fantastic. This is just genius. Beautiful, beautiful. So what about other file types? What else could you do?
We can do videos and stream videos.
I gotta see this.
Although not in 4K, not until I add the Tor mode to RNode.
And can you use a sort of bog standard video player?
Yeah. So I'm going to take the smallest file I have just so that we can actually continue with today's meeting.
Yeah.
And wait for it to upload. So I actually uploaded like 100 megabyte files and without issues.
That's fantastic. This is awesome. Well, you know, I mean, what I was mentioning, you know, while we're waiting for the file to upload, what I was mentioning, I think at the RPC meeting today is something that I mentioned way back in the Synereo days that I imagined, you know, whether it's a band making a release video or releasing an album, they could start with an RDrive that just the band has access to. and then put the first seeds of songs, right? And then they go into the studio and they make some mixes of some of the songs, and they extend that folder so that the engineer and the producer and maybe the artist and the marketer have access to the video. And the more they go along, the more they put little snippets of the production, the process of making the album. And so by the time they get to the release, first they invite their VIP fans, their super fans, to that folder where they can see not just the finished product, the actual songs, but the making of, and all of the little outtakes, all of the little funny photos, and all of that would be available on that drive. And then when they get to the final release date, they open it up to their whole audience, and they can market that however they want. You could see how the recording of the process of making the album would really dramatically increase the monetization of that effort. And it doesn't stop with bands, right? A dance troupe could do the same thing, right? Imagine Cirque du Soleil, recording all of the training and the high wire hijinks that happen as they're trying to put together a show, and that goes as a part of the material that gets released when they roll out their next production. Right, and it's all on RDrive. So where are we? Are we anywhere close?
Halfway there.
Okay.
Almost there.
So I really think people need to be thinking about the different ways that RDrive and RChain can be used to increase their presence in the market. So, for example, today, when people release NFTs, they have to do a lot of social hype to hype up, to get some visibility, because you can't search for the NFTs on these marketplaces. But now, not only can you search for the properties of these NFTs, but there's more that you can offer with that NFT. You can offer artifacts of the entire process, which is a much bigger play than anything we've seen with the NFT market.
Okay, I think we're done. Now we can go into File Manager. Again, I'm going to close this and restart the application to clear any caches that I have. But you can see that we're actually pulling data from chain. And like I wanted to show you before, here we have validator hosts, right? And we have only one. I can actually add more. And once we have LLVM, it will actually take full advantage of having multiple validators and actually of RChain scalability.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm going to open File Manager again. All our files are still in here, not going anywhere. Now let's try to play this in VLC. Keep in mind that I'm using WSL, so my system is a bit slower. So native Linux and macOS users will actually have smoother experience. There we go. Just some gameplay footage. There was a bit of lag in recording, so.
Yeah, so not all the lag we're seeing is actually lag from the system. It's actually lag that was
exactly.
in the video. Yeah, very good.
It doesn't give it justice.
I'm still, I mean, it's already amazing. Like, it takes a half an hour to upload a megabyte to Ethereum, right?
How much will it cost?
And how much will it cost exactly? This is fantastic, right? This is the kind of experience that we want people to have, where the blockchain is just another part of the tool ecosystem that they just use, and they don't even think about it so much, right? It's just it's a part of their extended internet brain. Fantastic. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much.
At one point, we'll be able to stream like 4K videos from the blockchain once we have the torrent. Once we add the torrent client to RNode, so it's still halfway through.
Wow.
That would at least give us the best read performance possible.
So this is amazing. This is really great. Any questions for Theo?
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
nice job, Theo.
Exactly the sort of, and you know what? Theo's been doing this on his own reconnaissance. And any member of the co-op who is technically minded, or who knows some folks who are technically minded, they could have gotten together and done this. Right? Theo is not running on some special version of Node. He's running on 013
Alpha 3.
Yeah, right. So and this plugs into to something I want to talk about. So I know that many people have heard me give this little spiel, but it bears repeating in this context. Now that you've seen for yourself what you can do with the existing RChain. Back in the 80s, so a long time ago, like, when people were still riding dinosaurs, you could write some C code and sit on your hands for 2 years, do nothing. And then the new chipset would come out and your code would be twice as fast, if not more. You didn't change the code at all, but the chips changed. And so you got more performance from your code. Now that stopped in the early 2000s. Certainly by 2005, that wasn't happening anymore, unless your code made use of concurrency, unless your code used multiple threads. And that trend of using multiple threads is only continuing, right? And so if you wrote some C code or some Java code and you didn't take very clever advantage of concurrency, your code could actually get slower with the new chipset. Now, what RChain has done is to make it so that you can write your code like Theo has done, and you can sit on your hands and not do anything, and your code is going to get faster. So Theo's written some code, Raphael's written some code. We have RGov and RVote. We have RChat, and we have several enterprise engagements. And they're all writing code right now. Some of this code is 2 years old. And it's only going to get faster. Like, the code isn't going to change. You don't have to wait for RChain to have these improvements. No, your code is going to be the same, and it's just going to get faster. So it will get faster with LLVM. And it will get faster as the Rholang 1.1 optimizations come in. But it will also get faster as the hardware market delivers more and more physical threads at lower and lower cost and less power consumption. This is the point of the RChain architecture. Anyone who's not writing Rholang now is simply making excuses. You can write your code now, and it will only get faster as the features of RChain get rolled out and more features come online. So don't wait. Build your dApps now. Any questions about that?
Yeah, that's great. I just want to say, as a developer, that the fun thing is that it's very hard to write code that is not concurrent in a Rholang. So we
yeah. You're absolutely right, Raphael. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was the music to my ears. Go ahead.
No, that's it. It's just that by default, any developer working with the Rholang will benefit from the thing you said about faster execution time. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah. So really, I think people need to understand what we've been trying to say all along. In 2018, we demonstrated delivering audio data from chain. And now we're doing it again, and video data, and a whole lot more. And now Theo and Bill and others have demonstrated the value of how, if you integrate it into the existing ecosystem, which has been the plan all along, make RChain smoothly integrable into the existing tool sets. And this is what you can do with RChain. So that Granny can use it, and DJs can use it, and graphic artists can use it. Anybody can use it, and they use it with the tools that they're already familiar with. Okay. So Daryl, are you ready with the week in review?
Yes. Yeah, this is so amazing and exciting. Really, really, really cool, Theo. Here is the Community Week in Review for June 9th to June 15th. On Friday in the Climate Coordination RCast, we discussed climate in America's primary elections, heat in school, a once extinct tortoise returning to the Galapagos. We also discussed the metaverse and autonomous vehicles. In the communications working group, it was another working session on the investment deck. We actually got a lot done. That was yesterday. And today in the, so there's a new entry for our week in review, and that's going to be for the RChain Publishing stakeholders call that happens every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. It's a call that's open to anyone who wants to attend. So in today's call, Ross Talbot answered a question about the airdrop. Theo presented the demo that you just saw. And then after the demo, Rue, I should say, gave a use case. His wife works at a music college, so he gave a use case of having all your music files produced at a college connected to your certification, which is immutable, all minted as an NFT. And that led Greg to propose the idea that he was talking about earlier, about having the production process of a musical album recorded and documented and released in various elements to select groups prior to the public release itself. And so that was that call. Then right after that was the RChain active member hangout in Jim's room. It was more of a personal catch-up call. Jim discussed his surgery recovery, and Bill talked about how he heard that Microsoft is finally retiring Internet Explorer. Let's see. And Jim also talked about bad spirits affecting his computer gear. Anyways, that brings us to now.
I guess I forgot to get you the Casper update.
Oh yeah, right.
So this week's Casper Standup, we returned to the operational semantics and logical forms, so the general purpose type algorithm. And the discussion that Mike and I have been, the investigation that Mike and I have been looking at is what is the essence of a linear collection. So as opposed to, a collection where you can have lots of copies of things, what makes a collection linear? And so we started with RSpace as sort of a paradigmatic example of a linear collection. And we sort of talked through how you can connect RSpace to the linear types. So for those people who are big fans of Bitcoin and UTXO, if you connect the linear types to RSpace in the way we talked about, you could use RSpace to build a UTXO model in which the linear types gave you proofs. So you could use linear logic to get proofs of no double spend. that's an example of a way to think, context relevant way to think about that work. But it also turns out that I was able to give a correspondence between, for the academics in the audience who might listen to this. I gave the correspondence between RSpace and Abramsky's proof expressions, which provide a canonical computational model for classical linear logic. The advantage of that correspondence is to begin to recognize that the linear types and the ways of combining proof expressions provide a new API for RSpace. So there's a new way to think about how to present RSpace in terms of a different API. In math speak, it would be a different algebra for RSpaces. So RSpaces become even more compositional. And that's important for those people who are interested in the storage side of RChain. So if people want to think about RChain as just a database, then having an algebra of these kinds of databases is very much like having an algebra on relational databases. And that was, by the way, how they got started. Relational algebra was what was sort of the heart of relational databases. And here, what we're arguing is that there's a similar kind of algebra that sits inside RSpace that makes that gives us sort of a natural way to think about composing RSpaces over and above, just running them inside nodes and wiring up the nodes using a consensus algorithm. So even though it looks like it's all just theoretical math mumbo jumbo, it turns out to have huge implications for future releases of RChain. So that was the discussion of Casper, and it was quite fun. I hope that those people who are interested, please come to Casper. All right, let's see. Is there anything else we need to cover today? Board members, anything else? Staff members, did I miss anything for today's call?
I think we're good.
Oh, no. There is one more thing I need to talk about. So it's actually really important, right? So if you look at the work that Theo has done, Theo is working on the existing code base. And he's doing this on his own dime, on his own time. And I want to compare and contrast that with what's going on with RDAO. So I want people to understand RDAO has no connection to RChain at all. They have no legal jurisdiction. They have no say in how the co-op is governed. RDAO has done nothing to do any tech development on their own, right? So Theo's done lots of tech development just using the existing open source code. Anybody in the community can go and take the open source code and do stuff with it. Raphael went on his own and made something out of the open source code that exists today. But the RDAO folks, they have no connection to governance of RChain resources. They have made no tech developments on their own. They have made no contributions to RChain tech development. And RChain has a very sophisticated multi-sig apparatus. RChain's multi-sig runs much faster than Ethereum's multi-sig, and RChain's multi-sig apparatus has many more features and is way cheaper than Ethereum's multi-sig. So the idea that RDAO, which is using the R, which is a part of our registered trademark, would be running anything on Ethereum, which is completely environmentally insane, instead of on RChain. That's a very suspect thing. So as a board member, I will say that the board is unanimous that that RDAO is not a good place to be putting your money unless you are, you know, happily donating your money to something that has nothing to do with RChain. So please be aware of what's going on with RDAO. There's nothing there. They're not doing any development. They could be doing development. You know, there are people right now who are doing actively developing, and they're not core RChain members. There's the core RChain team, which are actively developing. There's all of the governance, right? Like RChain runs its governance on chain, right? For the last 2 years, the governance, the voting for RChain has been run on chain. And RDAO has not contributed to that or anything else. So RDAO is nothing to do with RChain. And community members need to be aware that if they're putting money into RDAO, they're not doing anything to contribute to RChain or RChain tech or anything like that. So please be very, very careful about that. With that, please enjoy the spring. There's just a few days left, of spring before we turn the corner into summer. And do stay safe, and we will see you on the other side.